There are commonly accepted rules, and then there are the unspoken ones, the kind Machiavelli understood, which distinguish the powerful from the vulnerable. While many believe power is something to display, Machiavelli knew its true essence lies in what you hold back, especially when others are watching. In public, your reputation and opportunities are at stake, and people are observing, waiting for you to make a mistake. You don't achieve success by simply being impressive in public. Instead, you rise by being faultless. There are 9 subtle, human behaviors driven by emotion that can silently undermine your presence and control if you reveal them. One crucial rule is never to complain publicly. You might think it makes you relatable, but powerful individuals perceive it as a weakness. Machiavelli recognized that complaining in public reveals 2 critical flaws: a lack of control and a desire for sympathy, both of which are detrimental. True power attracts those who can endure difficulties without showing their pain. When you publicly express frustration, you transform into someone who appears needy, and the world will treat you accordingly. Therefore, remain silent and deal with your struggles privately. Let others wonder at your composure. Never expose your insecurities in public, though perhaps you might confide in someone you deeply trust. What people hear you admit, they will eventually believe, even if it's untrue. Repeatedly saying, "I'm not good at this," will lead to a loss of trust from others. Similarly, admitting to struggles with confidence will permanently lower people's expectations of you. Machiavelli understood that appearances influence perception, and nothing undermines authority faster than openly revealing weaknesses. Even when uncertain, maintain your composure and allow your perfect posture to conceal any internal doubt. What truly unsettles people is not what you say, but what you choose not to reveal. Also, never boast about your plans. You might have observed people publicly discussing their grand ideas. Machiavelli would feign interest while planning to exploit their ambition, because announcing your plans publicly leads to 2 outcomes. People feel no urgency to support you, assuming you're already doing well. Additionally, others now have a roadmap to undermine you before you even begin. Announce nothing. Let your success be a surprise. Operate discreetly until your achievements are undeniable. When questioned, simply shrug, smile, and offer no details, as power is best accumulated when it goes unnoticed. Avoid taking public sides in minor disputes. While supporting someone in private might demonstrate loyalty, doing so publicly makes you predictable. Machiavelli advised rulers against getting involved in others' quarrels unless there was a direct benefit. Jumping into a dispute creates unnecessary enemies and forms alliances based on emotion rather than strategy. Most dangerously, it reveals your values before you have the power to enforce them. Allow others to expose themselves and quarrel. Instead, observe, remember, and strategically position yourself. Public neutrality isn't cowardice. It's a way to preserve your future dominance. Never overtly seek attention. There's nothing more off-putting in public than desperation, whether it's forced laughter, a constant need for validation, or a craving for approval. Once people sense your need, they gain control over you. Machiavelli believed that the more you depend on others, especially psychologically, the less they value you. If you enter a room trying to be liked, you become easily replaceable. However, entering with calm composure and disinterest creates an undefinable presence. What people can't define, they can't easily dismiss. If you desire influence and power, be the one who doesn't need the room's approval. Let them gravitate toward you. Never show even the slightest sign of cracking under pressure. Public moments of stress, arguments, or accusations are tests that most people fail, not by exploding, but by subtle tells. Their voice might tighten, their expression might flinch, or their posture might weaken. Audiences instantly perceive this, even subconsciously, and in that moment, your mystique crumbles. Machiavelli would never display pressure. He would absorb it like armor. Even when seething internally, maintain outward stillness, not robotically, but with control. Once people see that nothing perturbs you, you become a psychological anchor, a figure around whom others adjust themselves. Never publicly over-explain yourself. This is a common mistake for those who feel compelled to justify every action. If you say something controversial and elicit a reaction, panicking and launching into a clarifying or defensive rant causes you to lose control of the narrative. The crowd then dictates your story, and you find yourself explaining your existence on their terms. Machiavelli never explained. Instead, he redirected. Rather than softening his stance, he would make people question their own reactions. If they demanded an explanation, he might reply, "Perhaps you misunderstood me," or "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, he retained control of the meaning. So, the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, resist it. Let your silence force them to question themselves. Never show bitterness after being rejected. If someone ignores you, excludes you, or chooses someone else, you might feel a pang of hurt and want to show it. However, public bitterness is self-sabotage because it signals, "I noticed, I care, and now I'm weakened by it." Machiavelli would consider this emotional suicide. When you're overlooked, dismissed, or excluded, respond with detachment. Not passive aggressiveness or fake laughter, but stillness. Make it seem as though they've liberated you, as if your attention is a valuable resource they've just lost access to. They likely expected you to pursue them. When you don't, they'll start pursuing you. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful, not because they don't deserve it, but because it offers no benefit to you. Calling out someone in a higher position only leads to two outcomes. People will perceive you as jealous, even if you're right, and the powerful individual will see you as a threat to be neutralized. Machiavelli would identify their weaknesses, but he would never strike first publicly. He would wait. He would wait until their defenses were down, or until it was more advantageous to elevate them just before their downfall. If criticism is necessary, deliver it precisely, strategically, and ideally through someone else. True power isn't about speaking the truth. It's about knowing when the truth is useful. Power is not merely preserved by what you avoid. It's silently built through what you project with precision. By eliminating the weak behaviors Machiavelli would disdain, you create a void, and the world abhors a vacuum. People around you will project meaning onto you, whether you intend it or not. Thus, the goal shifts from avoiding destruction to actively cultivating dominance. Instead of showing aggression or ego, true influence comes from stillness, strategic positioning, and selective revelation. You've learned what behaviors to eliminate. Now, let's focus on what to implement. Replace complaining with unreadable endurance. While complaints reveal need, silent endurance creates an air of mystery. Machiavelli would never display pain. Instead, he'd channel it. In public, your quiet resilience in the face of adversity can be intimidating. People fear what they can't gauge. If you remain unshaken under pressure, they'll wonder about the true extent of the situation, why you aren't breaking, and what you might be planning. You don't need to smile or pretend. You just need to exude an emotional indifference that makes others question their own fortitude. Your pain is a powerful tool, but only if kept hidden. Replace insecurity with strategic ambiguity. Insecurity acts as a signal, whereas ambiguity functions as a mirror. Insecure individuals explain, overshare, and seek validation. However, Machiavellian ambiguity is different. It deliberately keeps people guessing. Instead of saying, "I don't know what I'm doing," you might say, "I have something in mind," and reveal nothing further. You don't admit confusion. You ask questions that shift the focus. You're not pretending to be omniscient. You're simply making them unsure of what you know. Once people believe you're playing a long game, they'll start overthinking everything about you. The moment they're distracted by your ambiguity, you gain the upper hand. Replace boasting with subtle power signals. Announcing your power diminishes it. Revealing it by accident, however, allows you to control the narrative. Powerful individuals don't list their achievements. They let them naturally become known. You aren't a leader because you claim to be, but because people instinctively look to you in uncertain times. You don't tell others you're building something. They notice your protected time. You don't declare victory. They see your quiet demeanor while others celebrate. That's true power, not in display, but in strategic delay. When you master this, even your silence becomes a sign of progress. Replace public displays of loyalty with quiet allegiance. When others are openly taking sides and debating loudly, remain silent. This isn't because you don't care, but because you prioritize influence over overt approval. The strongest form of loyalty is often unseen. Machiavelli always formed alliances privately. You can support someone and be loyal, but doing so publicly is theatrical and often costs more than it's worth. Protecting someone in secret builds greater trust, and public neutrality maintains your invincibility. Support privately, and rule publicly by revealing nothing. Replace attention-seeking with controlled withdrawal. The loudest person in a room is often the weakest. Instead of making a grand entrance, enter with a calculated absence. Don't speak unless the moment demands your voice, and don't laugh unless it punctuates a silence. Avoid standing where everyone congregates. Instead, position yourself slightly outside the main group and subtly draw attention there. Humans are naturally drawn to contrast. In a room full of performers, the one who stands apart becomes the focal point, the gravitational center. Machiavelli understood that a ruler doesn't win through noise, but by being the individual others adjust themselves around. Replace breakdowns with pre-planned stillness. When challenged, don't attempt to defend, attack, or win the moment. Instead, adopt what Machiavelli would call preset postures: the deliberate pause before responding, an emotionless stare, a silent lean back after an interruption, or a refusal to mirror another person's panic. These calculated physical actions disrupt the other person's rhythm. When people expect a reactive opponent and get nothing, they become confused. Your calm becomes provocative. Once they start to unravel, you appear to be the one who orchestrated the entire situation. Replace over-explanation with micro-mystery. The more you speak, the more others define you. The less you speak, the more they project their own interpretations onto you. And by doing so, you capture their imagination. So, instead of explaining your decisions, simply say, "Let's see how it plays out." Instead of clarifying your behavior, state, "It made sense to me." Now, they are compelled to work to understand you. In this process, they will often assign meaning that surpasses your actual intent, which is ideal because Machiavelli never sought to be understood. He desired to be interpreted. And these interpretations often held more power than the truth itself. Replace bitterness with a quiet exit. When publicly rejected or ignored, do not retaliate or justify yourself. Simply disappear, not in anger, but with cold, refined detachment. The person who removes themselves without a spectacle creates discomfort in others. You didn't argue or beg, you simply withdrew. Now, the crowd fills in the blanks. Did he know something we didn't? Was this a deliberate move? Why does it feel like we just lost something valuable? You've made yourself scarce without incurring any damage. This makes your potential return, if you choose to make one, infinitely more impactful. Replace immediate criticism with delayed precision. You never strike the moment someone offends you. Instead, you wait, you study, and you allow time to reveal the layers of their weakness. Then, one day, in a different context, you expose a truth so specific and surgical that it appears accidental, but it is not. It's payback perfected by restraint. Machiavelli wouldn't directly say, "That man is weak." He'd let the man's actions prove it. Then, after his fall began, whisper a single phrase to the right audience. This is how power operates through words, not loudly, but with patience. Control without being perceived is merely invisible effort, and Machiavelli never worked silently unless that silence made others paranoid. This is the next stage, shaping the image people form of you even when you're not present. In public, you're not just presenting your character, you're crafting your legend. This legend isn't built on what you say, but on what you allow people to assume and how you respond to their instincts. It's about meticulously curating power by influencing perception before anyone has the chance to fully define you. Machiavelli didn't wish to be understood. He aimed to be feared and followed without a clear explanation why. That should be your goal now. Most people speak to fill silence. The Machiavellian speaks to create it. Public perception isn't shaped by your words alone. It's shaped by the gaps between what you say. When you speak slowly, pause before answering, and leave thoughts hanging, people lean in. They begin to assume intelligence where there's silence and project meaning where you've said nothing at all. This is your weapon. Say less, mean more. Let pauses become invisible punctuation that builds tension. Let people complete your sentences in their own minds. You are no longer just a person delivering content. You are a presence they must interpret. Control eye contact like a weapon. There are only two ways to subtly undermine someone in public without physical contact: stare until they break, or completely refuse to look at them. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology. Your gaze in public isn't just about confidence. It's about positioning. When someone tries to provoke you, argue, or overcompensate, calmly hold their gaze. Never flinch or overfocus. Just wait. Eventually, they'll look away, and at that moment, everyone watching will know who truly prevailed. If someone of lesser standing attempts to provoke you, completely ignore their presence. Do this not with arrogance, but with a cold detachment. This silence, this refusal to engage visually, renders them insignificant, and the crowd will notice, subtly establishing your social standing without a single word. Respond to provocation with calm redirection. The most dominant individuals in a room aren't those who win arguments. They're those who never appear to even join them. When someone tries to corner you with criticism or sarcasm in public, don't defend or escalate. Instead, pivot. Offer a faint smile and subtly redirect the topic so elegantly that the aggressor looks childish. The room will observe that you didn't need to win the moment. You simply bypassed it. That's true presence. Once people realize you can't be provoked, they'll stop trying and adjust to your pace. Now, you control not just perception, but the entire emotional atmosphere of any space you enter. Build a myth around your absence. The most potent moments of public power often occur when you're not even there. If you meticulously craft your image, people will begin to discuss you after you've left. You reveal very little and say even less, but your actions spark curiosity, and curiosity generates narratives. They'll start wondering, what's he up to now? Or, did you see how calm he remained? Or, I heard he's working on something significant. You've effectively created a subtle, pervasive myth that circulates rooms even without your physical presence. To cultivate this, be just slightly less accessible than expected. Leave events early, arrive late, and say just enough to hint at depth, never revealing the complete picture. When your name arises in conversation, let there always be a pause, a sense of respect, a slight caution, a lingering question mark. This is how legends are built. And legends don't shout, they echo. Let other people defend you publicly. Most individuals panic when their reputation is challenged and immediately jump to their own defense. Machiavelli would never do this. Why? Because the moment you defend yourself, you inadvertently validate the accusation. Instead, he would allow others to do it. He cultivated discreet alliances, maintained his composure, and trusted that his presence had instilled enough loyalty and fear that someone in the room would speak up on his behalf. You must do the same. Speak in a way that people enjoy quoting you. Conduct yourself in a manner that makes people feel intellectually superior by defending your silence. When publicly questioned, remain still and simply state that they are entitled to their view. Allow the room to turn on the attacker while you merely observe. This is how rulers operate. They don't fight rumors, they let the myth correct them. Master the exit moment. Machiavelli believed that timing was the crucial, hidden force behind perception. You could say the right thing at the wrong moment and lose everything, or win over a crowd only to ruin it with a clumsy departure. Therefore, you must master the final moments of your public interactions. When you leave, do so while interest is still rising, not after it has peaked, and certainly not when you're being dismissed. Depart with their attention still in your grasp. Walk away mid-conversation with a logical-sounding reason that nevertheless leaves them curious. I've got to handle something. Let's finish this another time. Or, that's a good place to pause for now. You'll understand soon enough. Do this not smugly, but with precise timing. Once you're gone, they won't talk about what you said, but about why you left when you did. You are no longer merely a participant. You are the figure they recall when the room is empty. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics. He taught atmosphere. Your goal isn't to impress people publicly. Your goal is to disrupt their certainty, ignite their imagination, and create a presence that they can't quite explain but will never forget. However, presence alone is defensive. Power begins when you actively use it. Machiavelli didn't merely want to be respected. He wanted to move through the world like a loaded weapon, not always fired, but always noticed. This is where most people stop. They gain self-control and believe it's sufficient. But Machiavelli knew restraint is only half the art. Precision is the other. So now, you don't just enter a room with presence. You begin to destabilize it without moving a muscle. Use silence as a trap, not merely a shield. There's a silence that protects, and there's a silence that lures people into mistakes. In public, use your quietude not just to protect yourself, but to bait others. When someone tries to provoke you, respond with a pause. Don't give them your words. Give them your stare, your stillness. Give them nothing. They will start over-explaining, escalating, talking excessively to fill the vacuum you've created. And in that moment, the room will watch them unravel while you remain perfectly still. Machiavelli would use silence as a test. Let them reveal their true character in response to your restraint. The foolish rush to fill silence. The powerful allow it to swallow the unprepared. Redirect questions into questions. When people try to corner you, trap you, or gain insight into your mind publicly, never answer directly. Redirect. If someone asks, "Why did you do that?" don't explain. Instead, ask, "Why does that interest you?" If they ask, "What are you planning next?" say, "Wouldn't it be smarter if I didn't say?" The crowd's attention will shift. They'll stop seeking truth in your words and start looking for meaning in your intention. You've just flipped the power dynamic, because when you answer, they control the pace. But when you make them explain themselves, you own the moment. Use micro-movements to create psychological discomfort. In public spaces, most people try to impress with grand gestures, loud voices, and rapid movements. The Machiavellian strategy, however, employs subtle micro-signals instead. A single glance that lingers too long. A smirk when someone else is trying to prove something. A slow, deliberate sip of your drink after someone finishes a passionate rant. These are deliberate acts of minimalism. They convey, "I'm not reacting because I already understand this moment better than you." It's dominance without volume, a threat without words. These moves create an inexplicable discomfort, and that is where your power resides. When they can't understand you, they begin to adjust themselves. Publicly praise the powerful with precision. You already know not to criticize someone with more power in public. Instead, Machiavelli would strategically offer public praise in ways that also serve as a form of protection. You shouldn't flatter randomly. Instead, identify a powerful individual and make a sharp, simple, and undeniable observation about their strength. For example, you might remark, "His timing is always perfect," or "She doesn't need to say much. You can feel it," or "You always know when he's entered the room, even before you see him." Why do this? Because powerful people remember who safeguards their image. By doing so, you become a subtle ally, gaining protection without appearing submissive. You're now covered by their shield while still having your own weapon ready. Never reveal who you're genuinely observing. In public, always act as though your focus is casual, but in reality, always be watching. Notice who's desperately seeking attention, who's subtly trying to compete with you, or who's pretending not to see you but is mirroring your posture. Machiavelli would scan a room without ever letting anyone know they were being scrutinized. Your power in public isn't just about commanding attention. It's about gathering information without being noticed. The person who openly watches everyone is seen as dangerous, but the one who watches quietly is unstoppable. When you discern patterns, who's envious, who's insecure, who's pretending, you gain the ability to manipulate them gradually. This isn't for immediate action, but for when it truly matters. Respond to disrespect with calculated absence. Nothing disrupts a public group dynamic more than your sudden silence. If someone interrupts you, undermines you, or subtly tries to dismiss you, don't retaliate or try to prove them wrong. Instead, withdraw your energy, your words, and your attention. Speak to others. Change the direction of the conversation. Let the person realize they've just removed themselves from your sphere without you even reacting. The crowd will notice, and the disrespectful individual will feel a chill they didn't expect. They'll start trying harder to gain attention, and in doing so, they'll lose control of themselves. You don't punish them. You simply disappear from their radar, and their own insecurity becomes their punishment. Drop well-timed phrases that people replay later. A precisely delivered sentence is more impactful than a 5-minute speech. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to utter one sentence that everyone replays in their mind after you leave. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." You want to echo this principle with your own words. Phrases like, "You'll understand later," or "Sometimes silence is louder than shouting," or "Power doesn't respond. It observes," spoken calmly and without emphasis, will stick with them. They can't explain why, but they'll replay it. This is how you create psychological follow-through. Your presence extends beyond your voice. and your voice becomes almost ritualistic. Let public spaces transform you into a living riddle. Most people enter a room hoping to be seen. You, however, walk in and become a contradiction. Warm eyes but a cold voice. A silent posture yet a deadly presence. Engaging one moment, withdrawn the next. Always polite, but never predictable. This internal conflict makes people pay attention because their brain can't quite categorize who you are. In that space of confusion, you become unforgettable. You're not just a person, you're a force they're attempting to label but cannot. This is what Machiavelli would construct. Not just a powerful man, but a man who distorts clarity wherever he stands. You are not just here to be seen. You are here to be remembered. In a world that rewards noise, become the silence that unsettles. Walk through public spaces not as a person seeking approval, but as a presence that bends attention without effort. This is not about ego, it is about energy. And once you master it, you no longer enter rooms, you reshape them. If this message stirred something in you, help us shape a world of deeper awareness. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a moment of quiet power. Drop a comment below. Tell us what you'd like to uncover next. Your journey has only just begun.